Mark Rogers TV, looking at positional units across the SEC, and the Ole Miss Rebels have thrown it around the yard just about as good as anyone in the league over the last few years. But one of the units that's allowed them to do as much is the offensive line. We bring in John Luke McCord from the Rebel Walk to help us break down the offensive front. John Luke, this is the first time we've talked. I appreciate you coming on.
Man, I'm absolutely excited to be here and talk about a few positions here with Ole Miss, and great to be with you. Thanks for asking me to do it.
So, of course, Laremy Tunsil's the name everybody knows. We saw him on draft night, so even those people that don't follow college football are quickly getting themselves acclimated to Laremy Tunsil's talent. We won't talk about the off-the-field issues, but, of course, he was the best player at his position in college football from the day he stepped on campus in regards to number one ranked recruit and throughout his time there at Ole Miss. So people think Tunsil's gone, 4 or 5 starters gone. We're in bad shape here at the offensive line position. But your thoughts in forecasting how this unit is going to play this fall?
Absolutely. There is no Laremy Tunsil coming back for Ole Miss this season. In fact, no tackle coming back for Ole Miss this season. They have a few guys with a lot of starts under their belts that are leaving from the interior as well, and they'll be trying something new at center. So it's definitely an overhauled unit. But I would say this is a unit that the coaches really like. They like the athleticism of this unit. They like where these guys fit as far as their system and the up-tempo offense that they like to run. A lot of the other offensive linemen that are moving on were guys they inherited. And so these are guys that of their pick. Of course, they would love to have a Laremy Tunsil back, but he's in the NFL fighting for a spot on the offensive line for the Miami Dolphins right now. And they did turn around. You know, Laremy Tunsil, number one offensive tackle recruit in the 2013 class. They do that again in 2016. They get the number one offensive lineman in Greg Little out of Allen, Texas. So a lot of people are really wanting him to come in and be that Laremy Tunsil in year one, or be what Laremy Tunsil was in his year one. So I'm not sure that is what Greg is built to do, as talented as he is. I know a lot of people are really hoping that he steps in, starts at that left tackle spot. I would say that spot is there for him to take. They recently released a 2-deep, post-spring 2-deep, a little bit late, I guess, really a pre-SEC Media Days 2-deep, and they had Jeremy Liggins, who's a senior, kind of a journeyman. He's played tight end, obviously was recruited out of high school in 2012 as a quarterback. So Liggins is a guy that Freeze has always felt his future was on the offensive line and at the next level. So he's a guy that's in the mix at left tackle. Redshirt freshman Alex Givens, a guy they really liked out of the high school class of 2014. He's in the mix too. I think Greg Little, no doubt, is more talented than both of those options, and a guy that probably works himself into that left tackle role. I just don't know if it's game one against Florida State. On the right side, they like the tackle they've got there. They have a guy named Sean Rawlings, who is a redshirt sophomore. He started for him last year. He didn't necessarily hold his own in the battles against, say, Florida and Alabama early in the season, but he held down the right tackle spot while Fawn Cooper was having to play left in place of Laremy Tunsil during the 7-game suspension. So I think they like where they're at as far as athleticism on the tackles. They really have 4 tackles they like as far as Rawlings, Alex Givens, Liggins, and Little, the guys I mentioned. On the interior, they're really talented. They have a guy named Jordan Sims coming back. He's very big, out of high school, from Alabama. No offer from Alabama or Auburn there. He was a guy that really needed to lose some weight. He got to Ole Miss. He did just that, and he's still doing that. So he's a guy going into year 2. He's got some starts under his belt from last year. They really like him. At left guard, Javon Patterson, a 5-star guy out of high school, they really, really like Javon, and they feel like he's ready to take the next step here in his senior year, or here in his sophomore year, I should say. Speaking of seniors, Robert Conyers is a senior at the center spot. It'll be second year that he's really played a lot of that position. He can play tackle as well if need be. Spent a lot of time hurt last year, but center is a position that he's getting more and more used to, and you want to see the consistencies with the snap. So one skill that Ole Miss doesn't want people to know that Chad Kelly is good at, I would say, is catching bad snaps, and he had to do a lot of that last year. So Robert Conyers is a guy they hope they have more stability from this year. So that's kind of the breakdown of where they're at position by position from last year to this year.
Yeah, as you mentioned, John Luke, Conyers hurt the ACL against Memphis, comes into his senior season trying to make amends for that and trying to stay on the field. Jordan Sims is just a true freshman, 13 games played, a valuable 4 starts. Javon Patterson, much expected of him out of Petal. one of the top 3 tackles coming out of that class. And I look down the line at the 2 last most recent recruiting classes, and I see guys rated anywhere in the top 25, and I see 5, 6, 7 offensive linemen. So maybe not necessarily, even when we talk about Little, even though he's a number 1 ranked player in that Tunsil class, who's almost a once a decade type talent in regards to the feet and just the strength and so forth. But just a ton of guys that even if you miss on a few, you got a number of guys to work with here.
Certainly, and sorry but Rod Taylor's a guy I didn't mention. He'll be a fantastic guy as far as, I guess, that 6th lineman, you could really say, the 6th Man of the Year award. But he's a guy that is going to work a little bit at tackle this fall as they're working a guy like Little in there, and as they're wanting Alex Gibbons to get enough reps, but not all the reps. So Rod Taylor's a guy that I think could back up either the guard spots and the tackle spots as well. Also a guy from Mississippi who was a 5-star.
Yeah, John Luke, when we think SEC contenders, we think running the football first. Ole Miss has kind of bucked that trend, almost made it to Atlanta, pass first team, a team that ran it reasonably well but didn't have a dominant rushing attack compared to the main contenders in the SEC Western Division. How much do you think that is credited to the offensive line play not getting the push, or is it maybe a lack of commitment to the running game?
Well, I think that the run at Ole Miss in the last few years under Hugh Freeze has been not so much because of the offensive line as it has been because of the passing attack. You know, the passing attack was so dangerous that I think it sprang a lot of the runs they were able to have. I think that's why they lacked the consistent short runs that they needed a lot of times, or the runs they needed to melt the clock or get a 3rd down. So I think a lot of the runs you saw and remember from the last few years are big runs that were sprung because of the passing game. Really, Bo Wallace, Chad Kelly have been 2 of the most effective runners on the team the last 2 years, the quarterback position. So I think that there is credit to be given to the offensive line. You see they really rally around and protect well against Alabama last year, and well enough to get a victory without Laremy Tunsil against the front 7 that we all saw Alabama came to have last year. So I think while the offensive line hasn't played a positive and huge role in the running game in the last few seasons, I expect this unit will, specifically because of that experience you see in the interior 3 spots with Sims, Patterson, and Conyers.
All right. Despite the loss of Laremy Tunsil to the NFL and the Miami Dolphins, the Ole Miss Rebels looking to fill in the gaps and play very well and keep Chad Kelly upright and healthy in 2016 with a couple formidable tests very early on against Florida State and Alabama. John Luke McCord from the Rebel Walk helping us break down Ole Miss at offensive line. Thanks a lot, John Luke.
Thank you.